Hi everybody, my name is Victoria Moreno, and today we're going to be talking about e-cigarettes. So a little background on myself and the council. I'm a tobacco prevention coordinator at the Recovery Resource Council in the Prevention Resource Center. So I know it's kind of a mouthful, but basically as a tobacco prevention coordinator, I work with the Texas State Comptroller to do tobacco compliance checks. So the Texas State Comptroller is the main office in Texas that's responsible for tobacco law regulation in Texas. So when I go to check on tobacco retailers, which is anywhere in North Texas, if you see the little Prevention Resource Region 3 logo right there, and the little outline in North Texas is where Region 3 is. So basically within that space in Texas, I go to gas stations, grocery stores, cigar shops, hookah lounges, and sometimes even vape shops, basically anywhere that you can think of that sells tobacco. I go and visit and make sure that they're following all tobacco laws and teach them about them if they aren't already familiar with them. I'm also a part of organizations in the community that want to reduce drug use and promote healthy lifestyles. Sometimes I visit elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, juvenile detention centers, and other adults in the community to talk to them about the effects of tobacco use. So perfect. Before I get started, I just wanted to say sorry for all the weird stuff that's going on right now. I know all of your situations are unique, and it stinks that I can't speak with you all directly, but for now, we're doing digital learning, and that's the next best thing. So let's get started. All right, so before we get into the lesson for today, I'd love for you to take the pretest super fast. I really pay attention to the responses and learn how I can be a better presenter and make these videos better. So you can either plug the URL into your computer or phone, or you can open up the camera on your phone or Snapchat and just shine the camera on the QR code here on the right, and a link for the pretest should pop up. Once you finish, come right back so we can get started. Awesome, thank y'all so much for taking the pretest. So today we're going to be talking about what e-cigarettes are, how they work, some of the health harms that come with their use. We're going to be doing a little myth versus fact interactive game. We're going to be talking about what you can do, and we're going to be talking about cessation tools or quit aids. Okay, so some things I'd like for you to keep in mind while we go through this presentation is how an e-cigarette works, e-cigarette health harms, the differences between second and third-hand smoke, resources to promote tobacco prevention or what you can do in your community, and those vaping cessation resources or quit aids. Okay, well, first off, what even are e-cigarettes? Electronic nicotine delivery systems, sometimes called ENDS or e-cigarettes, are devices that heat liquid to produce a harmful mix of aerosols or clouds. E-cigarettes come in many different shapes and sizes and are known by many names, such as e-cigs, vape pens, cigalikes, and mods. Sometimes e-cigarette use can be referred to as vaping or juuling. Some of the most popular brands among young people include Juuls and Puff Bars. However, the typical Juul or Puff Bar we see today is one of the more advanced forms of e-cigarettes. But how do these e-cigarettes even work? Well, it seems a little complicated, but don't worry, we'll break it down piece by piece. First, we'll watch a short clip, and then we can review with a diagram.
Many teens think e-cigarettes are a safe alternative to traditional cigarettes. But like smoking, using e-cigarettes or vaping can harm your health. Often called vapes, e-cigarettes come in different shapes and sizes. They may be designed to look like tobacco cigarettes or resemble everyday objects like USB sticks. While they may look different, e-cigarettes are all designed to work in similar ways. When someone puffs on the mouthpiece, a battery heats up a liquid contained inside the device. This liquid then turns into an aerosol that is inhaled. The aerosol resembles a vapor. Depending on the device, e-cigarette aerosol may appear as a thick cloud or be barely visible. But all e-cigarette aerosols are a mixture of chemicals, some of which are known to be harmful. Some of these substances are in the liquid, such as nicotine, the same highly addictive chemical in tobacco, and chemicals used to flavor the aerosol. These flavor chemicals can be harmful to the lungs when inhaled. Some of the chemicals in the aerosol are created when the e-cigarette liquid is heated. These can include acrolein, a potentially harmful chemical also used in weed killers. If that's not enough, some e-cigarette aerosol also contain toxic metals. So think about it. When someone vapes, they can be exposing their body to a number of harmful chemicals. To find out more, watch the next video.
Okay, so let's summarize. We can start with the bottom with the battery. The battery heats up the atomizer, and the atomizer is that metal coil that then heats up the e-juice or the vape juice and converts it to an aerosol or smoke or a cloud. All of that is passed directly into the mouthpiece at the very top and inhaled into the body of the person vaping. Like we saw, all e-cigarettes are super different, but they all have this standard template when it comes to how they work. But why are e-cigarettes so dangerous? I know you all have heard about how dangerous regular cigarettes are, but what risks can come from using e-cigarettes? Well, let's start off by watching this short clip.
Did you know that vaping can expose people to harmful substances? Most e-cigarettes contain nicotine, the same highly addictive chemical found in cigarettes and other tobacco products. Nicotine causes the brain to release dopamine. This natural chemical causes feelings of pleasure and encourages more nicotine use. Over time, this leads to addiction, in which a person loses control of their decision to do something and will continue to do so despite negative consequences. Teens are especially vulnerable to nicotine addiction because their brains are still developing. Teens may not realize how much nicotine they can be exposed to in a single vaping session. One pod of the popular Juul brand of e-cigarettes can contain as much nicotine as a whole pack of regular cigarettes. E-cigarette aerosol is not safe either. Some e-cigarette aerosol contains harmful chemicals, such as formaldehyde and acetaldehyde, which can cause irreversible lung damage. The aerosol can also contain particles of metals like lead and chromium. Some of these metals are toxic. Even inhaling the flavor chemicals can be harmful. For example, one of these, acrylonitrile, is also used to make adhesives and is poisonous in large doses. When you know these facts, it's clear to see how e-cigarettes can harm your health.
To find out more, watch the next video.
I know that video had a lot of information, so let's review. Starting with your brain. Nicotine, or the addictive chemical found in cigarettes and in most e-cigarettes, causes your brain to literally rewire and make tobacco a need, causing addiction. And because young brains are still growing and developing, these changes to the brain are much stronger and happen faster than in an adult brain. Nicotine can harm the parts of your brain that control attention, learning, mood, and impulse control. A recent study by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, found that 99% of e-cigarettes sold in the US contain nicotine, and some e-cigarettes didn't even say if they contain nicotine or not. Some e-cigarettes have even claimed they didn't contain nicotine, and then when tested, revealed they did in fact contain nicotine. Next, e-cigarette smoke is not harmless water vapor. We'll talk more about that and what's in e-cigarette smoke in the next few slides, but inhaling any substance is a danger to your respiration and leaves you at risk for mouth, throat, and lung injury. Next, e-cigarettes can cause unintentional injuries, such as small explosions and fires from defective batteries in e-cigarettes. Additionally, children and adults have been poisoned by swallowing, breathing, and/or absorbing the e-liquid. Lastly, using e-cigarettes as a teen greatly increases your odds of using regular cigarettes in the future. So now we just have a quick little video that talks about how nicotine takes over and rewires your brain.
Are e-cigarettes less harmful? Well, let's talk about some facts. Do you think your brain cares where nicotine comes from? Do you think your brain knows if you used a cigarette, cigar, spit tobacco, or electronic cigarette? All your brain knows is nicotine is a drug, and it doesn't care where it comes from, and e-cigarettes deliver nicotine to your brain. Equally important is e-cigarettes have chemicals in them. Some of those chemicals we get from tobacco don't come from burning tobacco, they come from heating up nicotine. And what an e-cigarette does is it heats up nicotine. So it produces the same type of cancer-producing agents that you get from a tobacco product. Are they safer? Maybe. It's safer to jump off a 100-story building than a 300-story building. That's a true statement, it's safer, but the result is about the same. So is it safer? You could probably say maybe. All your brain knows is that nicotine is an addictive drug, and I must begin to change. So electronic cigarettes will affect the same change in your brain that any other tobacco product does.
I know that video was kind of creepy, but very, very true. So let's go over what's in that vape cloud. Well, as we see here, we have nicotine, which is that addictive chemical in all tobacco products, such as cigarettes and chewing tobacco. We have those ultrafine particles that seep deep into your lungs, potentially causing injury, dangerous organic compounds and cancer-causing chemicals, flavorings like diacetyl, that's linked to a serious lung disease, and heavy metals like nickel, tin, and lead. Exposure to lead while your brain is still developing can lower your IQ. Now, another thing. We just talked about all the damaging consequences that the smoker or vapor might experience, but what we don't always think about is the effect that it has on others. Secondhand smoke or passive smoking is when you are exposed to cigarette or e-cigarette smoke directly. So if you're hanging out with a friend that vapes, you will also inhale some of those dangerous chemicals that we just spoke about on the previous slide, without even having to vape. And third-hand smoke are all the leftover particles. So let's continue the scenario and say that after you hang out with your friend all day, you go back home for dinner with your family. All those dangerous chemicals that you inhaled from your friend smoking or vaping close to you will also be found on your clothes and on your hair. So when you go back with your family, you expose your family to those dangerous chemicals as well, leaving your family members at risk. Okay, now that we know a little bit more about e-cigarettes, let's go over some myths versus facts. Okay, so it looks like we've got this little game. Let's get started. Turn the sound on. Okay. E-cigarettes are designed and marketed to seem cool. Right, so e-cigarettes are designed and marketed to be cool. That's absolutely true. And if you haven't seen my last video on big tobacco marketing and you're interested in learning about how big tobacco has tried to fool kids for decades, I'd recommend watching it. And I'll put the link down below. Let's see, but okay, guess we can get started. The adolescent brain is more vulnerable to addiction. So, yeah, remember when we talked about all of the harms that e-cigarette does to your body? More specifically, the brain. So nicotine will rewire your brain, and your brain is more sensitive to nicotine and therefore will be more likely to become addicted to nicotine because it's still developing. And that's basically what we have here. Teens and tweens are at a higher addiction risk than adults because the brain continues to develop through a person's mid-20s. Exposure to nicotine as a teen can cause short and long-term effects on attention, learning, and memory that promote nicotine addiction. Okay, let's see the next one. E-cigarettes are full of chemicals. Right, so remember when we saw that big vape cloud with nicotine, cancer-causing chemicals, nickel, tin, lead, and many other harmful chemicals? All of those things aren't just in the vape clouds. They go straight into your body when you vape. And vaping devices contain a liquid mix of chemicals, some of which are harmful. Most brands, including Juul, include nicotine, a highly addictive chemical. Teens are especially vulnerable to becoming addicted to nicotine because their brains are still developing. Right. Okay, so next, Vaping products are addictive. Yes, that's absolutely true, and I'm sure you've heard that quite a bit of times now, but for a good reason. Research shows that people whose first tobacco product was flavored are more likely to become regular tobacco users. Because of an increasing number of kids using flavored products, the FDA continues to crack down on illegal sales to minors and hold retailers and manufacturers accountable for marketing practices. Okay. Vaping devices contain harmful chemicals. Yeah, so everything we spoke about on the vape cloud and so much more. Potentially harmful chemicals that can be found in aerosols from vaping devices include metals like lead, chromium, and nickel. E-cigarette aerosols may also contain cancer-causing chemicals such as formaldehyde, the same substance they use in funeral homes to preserve dead bodies. Crazy. Okay, vaping products have been linked to deaths. Yeah, so we didn't actually talk about this one, but based on the things we know about how e-cigarettes harm our health, it's not difficult to see how all of those negative effects can lead to deaths. In fact, in 2019, serious lung illnesses broke out in the US. Thousands of people, including many teens and young adults, got sick after using vape products, including e-cigarettes. Some ended up with permanent lung damage, and multiple people have died. Federal agencies continue to investigate the cause or causes. Okay. Vaping may lead to cigarette use. Absolutely true. So this is another reason why e-cigarette use is so dangerous. And a lot of people don't know this. And I've spoken to a lot of teens like you, and they always tell me they would never smoke cigarettes. They're so gross and so bad for you, and that e-cigarettes are so much safer. But safer doesn't equal safe. Teens who vape are more likely to start smoking tobacco cigarettes than those who don't. One reason may be that they've become addicted to nicotine. Okay. Vapes may contain high levels of nicotine. Right. So this is another thing that teens don't really realize, is that a Juul pod contains as much nicotine as a whole pack of regular cigarettes. Kind of scary. Okay, looks like the last one here. Vaping can harm your lungs. Right, so we spent a lot of time today talking about this, but when a person puffs an e-cigarette, it causes a battery to heat the liquid in the device. The heat releases the chemicals into the liquid, turning it into a vapor-like aerosol that the person breathes in. Breathing in this aerosol exposes your lungs to a chemical mixture that may cause lung injury. Okay. Putting down their vapes. Vaping is hazardous to your health. We've gone over a lot of important information about e-cigarettes, and I'm sure you're kind of wondering, like, okay, but what now? So let's talk about it. All of the resources that you see here will help you get started. Because secondhand smoke and thirdhand smoke affect you and your community, this is an issue that you can speak up about and educate others on. Additionally, because some of your peers might use vapes, you can teach them about the negative impacts of e-cigarette use and introduce them to cessation tools and/or quit aids when they're ready. We'll talk more about those in a little, but you can speak up about the dangers of e-cigarettes to your family, friends, and those in your community, such as your school. And I know some of those conversations might seem a little intimidating or scary, but don't worry, the resources that you see here will help you start those conversations so you're not alone. So I invite you to explore these websites and learn the truth about e-cigarette and tobacco use. And remember, your voice has so much more power than you can ever imagine. In fact, many of the tobacco and e-cigarette regulations that we have today are all thanks to concerned community members like yourselves. So don't be afraid to speak up. Your health is worth it. Quitting can be tough, but no one has to do it alone. let's go over some resources. So these are just a few cessation tools or quit aids that you or someone close to you may use, and they can all be done online or over the phone via call or text. Other things to keep in mind if you or someone you know is wanting to quit soon is how to make a plan. So apart from using these great cessation tools, make a plan. Decide which cessation tool you might want to use and stay motivated, focused, and determined to quit. Next, stay busy. This will help keep your mind off the cravings, and if cravings do come, try talking to someone you trust, think about why you want to quit, and stay busy. This can be working out, chewing gum to keep your mouth busy, or trying breathing exercises. Another great tip is to just avoid triggers to begin with, such as people, places, and things and/or situations that might set off the urge to use tobacco or e-cigarettes. Try changing up your routine if needed. Stay positive and focus on small successes. Time will add up, so just try to focus on staying positive. Build a support system with family, friends, and counselors. You are never alone. So, in conclusion, we discussed how an e-cigarette works, e-cigarette health harms, the differences between second and third-hand smoke, some resources you can use in your community to promote tobacco prevention, and some vaping cessation resources or quit aids. Quickly, before we wrap things up, I'd love for y'all to take the post-test. So y'all breezed right through the pre-test, so make sure to finish up with the post-test. As always, thank you so much for watching and stay safe.